Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway here on a Tuesday. Yesterday, you got to hear the final bits of content from Big 12 Media Day, basketball side of it, with the player interviews from Kansas City. So that's all taken care of. Drew and I talked basketball for about an hour Friday night late after a meaningless game, but I felt like we got some interesting stuff out of it. And then, obviously, we had a pretty good weekend. If you're watching this show, unless two things. Uh, you're a KU fan that for some reason watches this just to get upset or to call people names, or you're the random Oklahoma State fan that doesn't like things that we say occasionally. So there's that out there. Don't worry, nothing bad to say about Oklahoma State for another couple of weeks. That will be coming down the road. But we figured because the post game show on Saturday was so it probably wasn't as bad as I thought, but this stuff always really gets to me and bothers me. So I felt like because of the setup that we had, and I wasn't sure how it was coming out, that I wanted to devote a little bit more time to discussing what we actually saw game wise and how that translates moving forward, and then kind of giving our first look and discussion about Texas Tech. Another little swap for how the week is going to go. DY and I will have the Texas Tech preview show tomorrow, so that's a day earlier than it normally runs. And then Thursday, Friday, we'll have some other stuff to kind of get ready for football this week and see how things go for K-State and Texas Tech this Saturday. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But first, we start with our final thoughts from the Sunflower Showdown this year. K-State, 17th straight win. That feels pretty notable. And my bigger thought, though, is because K-State already won the game. We already talked about the feelings from that, all the other stuff that kind of builds off of that. But where is the real change in this team? Because will have Big 12 rankings that come out at the end of the week, and I've given K-State a massive bump, mainly because now we've seen over a 4-game period that this is a different team than what we saw over the first 4 games of the season. And so now I can buy into it because they backed it up. I'm a big believer. If you've listened or read anything that I've said over however many years of covering K-State, that there are prove it games. And after a prove it game, you have to go out and prove it again. And so K-State, because of how far they set themselves back, they were kind of continuously proving themselves. Like UCF was a game. They had to go prove it against Baylor. They almost did. And I still think they played really well in that game. I think it was the worst coach game of Chris Klieman's career at K-State. And they bounced back. They blasted TCU, had a bye week, and then they had a prove it game against Kansas after having a prove it game against TCU. Won both of them. You feel better about where this is going. And then I think it's easy to say that Saturday was the best game K-State's played all season in a lot of different areas. But what is real that we've seen shift with this team versus what is them taking advantage of not just Kansas, but TCU obviously flawed right now. They didn't look the prettiest against West Virginia this weekend. Baylor before that, they're having their struggles. I see people starting to put Dave Aranda back on the hot seat where he just lives, it seems like. So for you, Drew, what can you take out of how K-State played against Kansas that you think, okay, moving forward, I know we're going to see that over the final 4 games of the season?
Yeah, I think that what is real is the fight. Like, I mean, we begged for like a little bit of emotion over the first 4 games, and especially after that Arizona game of just how lifeless they looked. And really, that's not even just something that's real in the Kansas game. That's something that I think has been real over the last 4 games. You're seeing they're a lot more dialed and they're a lot more engaged. It looks like they're preparing better because it doesn't look like they're thinking too much when they're out there. So like everything that you've seen from the first 4 games has like kind of gone out the window. So I think that it all starts with just the care and the want to factor. It is real. And then the other things that I think are real, like it is the passing game, and especially the downfield passing game. We've been begging for deep shots all season because it's been part of K-State's best offense, because the success rate total is not great for the offense this year, but the explosive plays are what have really gotten them. And K-State has one of, actually, if you really dive into it, one of the most explosive offenses, not just in the Big 12, but in the country this season. So I think that is real. And then I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. This is the one that I feel kind of like the least good about like what is real, what's not real. I think that what we got and what we saw from the pass rush and the defensive line against Kansas and what we saw in the pass rush and defensive line against TCU, I think that is real. I think that that is something that you can't really like replicate back-to-back games with two completely different offensive lines, because I think that TCU's offensive line is actually better than Kansas's offensive line in terms of pass protection. But I think that you've seen it back-to-back games. You've seen them really affect both quarterbacks and hit both quarterbacks a bunch. And it's something that, if it is real, that's going to need to be something that takes place this weekend and affecting Baron Morton and hitting Baron Morton. Because, I mean, Texas Tech's offense this year is a little bit fascinating. Their offensive line is really, really good. Their running backs are really good. But it's not the Texas Tech of old where they're able to throw it 50 times a game and can just outscore you that way. They're a little bit weird on how they go about their offense, and it's a little bit more methodical. It's a little bit more run game. Baron Morton has had 2 games where like half of his yards have came in, which that is 2 of the 4 games that he's finished have most of his yardage in. But it's not like an offense that they're going to try and throw for 400 yards a game like they used to. So when you have those chances, you need to hit Baron Morton. And then on the flip side, the defensive line has been really good in the run game the last 2 weeks and the last 2 games. So like you need to see that as well.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, it feels weird that K-State has been getting better pressure on the quarterback without Toby Sami, but I
It,
also think that some of the
it
things that they've done elsewhere on the defense has been the best that it's been all season.
I think some of it has just been it's been schemed up a lot better than it was before. Because I think before you could just say, "Hey Toby, go beat your guy," and a lot of times he would.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I also think, they against KU, they still did some things with the blitz that I know, we like to give Joe Klanderman a hard time about it. He's been better about it lately, and their timing was really good with it on Saturday. And it wasn't, it, anytime you blitz, it's being aggressive, but it wasn't, next level stuff from Joe Klanderman where he's like, we're sending everybody, cover zero. Like it was just, hey, we'll give them the middle of the field if they want it, but we're not going to give them anything deep if they can really hit on it. And so I thought that they were better in that area. And I would say that also some of the pressure comes down to back-to-back games. I think the K-State corners have played their best games of the season. And that is one of those things that it's going to be interesting to see how they perform against Texas Tech this weekend. And it may not even be totally fair to judge, even if it goes poorly against Texas Tech. But I think that would be the one thing that I look at that is maybe the most encouraging where I go, I think that's a real shift for this team is that the corners, we know that they were really young. You were relying on 2 sophomores and Donovan McIntosh and Zayshawn Rich. I think that's one of those things that I think they're for real now. Like they're getting better and something that you can rely on a little bit more. It's not as flaky as it was earlier in the season. So that's encouraging moving forward. Obviously, you talked about Matt Wells. Everybody's saying take more shots. They did take more shots. I noted that in musings on Monday, and I think that was significant for this offense to do. Like you've got 3 receivers that have proven this year that they're kind of big game hunters. Like Jace Brown, Jerron Tibbs, and Jerron Bradley have all made great plays and big plays. And you need to do everything you can to keep giving them those opportunities. So, though to me, corners and taking the shots to the receivers, probably my 2 favorite things that came out of the game against Kansas that I say that's going to keep translating. We'll wait to see what the pass rush looks like and the offensive line, where I think there's something to the offensive line being more together or congruent with how they're playing. I don't know that it means that they're necessarily better. And obviously, Texas Tech, even with some injuries up front, there's still going to be a load for this line to handle.
Yeah, I think that the offensive line has just gone from like one of the worst in K-State history in the modern era of football to like being service level. Like there, it has really shifted because I mean, like I said, they were horrible before, and now they're getting enough of a push where like Joe Jackson isn't going to bust off a big one super often or really make a guy miss in the hole when he really needs to, but like he will get the yards that are blocked for him. And he's done a really good job of getting yards that are blocked for him in the last couple weeks. But because of that, like you need the offensive line to still get a push. He's kind of like a little bit like Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs, where like Pacheco does a really good job of getting what's blocked for him, but he's not really like the most explosive runner in the world or somebody that can really go get you like 40 yards if you really need it and really need it to spark the offense unless it's like blocked perfectly. But the offensive line does need to be probably at its best this weekend. David Bailey is one of the best pass rushers, not just in the Big 12, but in the country. He already has 10 sacks. He has 13 and a half tackles for a loss. He is as good as advertised when Texas Tech got him out of the transfer portal, if not better. So with that, like you need both of your tackles to play well that start. You need both of your rotation tackles to come in and also play well. So it's going to take everybody, and it's probably going to take K-State's best effort, not just this season, but I think probably since 2022 to knock Texas Tech off because they are so talented in the areas where I kind of question what K-State really is.
Yeah, I mean this Texas Tech team is legit, and even though they have the loss to Arizona State on there, and people are discounting them. Like I think Tech being 13th in the country now in the rankings, like too many people have jumped off the wagon.
Texas
Even
Tech's resume is better than Oregon's, who is number 6.
like this is all about to me. Like this is we talk about prove it games. This is the Baron Morton prove it game. Like he's a guy that I had doubted quite a bit, and then you see what it looks like with Will Hammond for an extended period, and it was a little shaky at times, and obviously it gave them their loss at Arizona State. So, like Baron Morton needs to have a really good game here for Texas Tech, and that's how Texas Tech wins this. Because if he doesn't play well, then it's been shown that they're beatable by a team in Arizona State that hasn't necessarily been at their best really at any point this year. Or if they have been at their best, then the Big 12 is much more tightly packed than we originally thought. Because what I saw from K-State on Saturday, I would take against the version of Arizona State that's played against Baylor or TCU or Texas Tech at times this year. So that's where I think it's going to be fascinating. Like this is going to come down to it's football, so it's quarterbacks always, but like this is a real, like Baron Morton has to go out and show something because he's going to be tested a little bit more. And like this is a pivotal game for Texas Tech. And on the other side, Avery Johnson is playing maybe not his best, but I keep calling it the most signature game of his career because he was pretty darn close to perfect against Kansas. Obviously, there were some incompletions. He missed one or two throws that would have been big, but he hit on a lot of big throws. He made a lot of plays for his team. And I like you saw the kind of performance from Avery Johnson that you've wanted all along. I thought it was more emotional, which was significant. Like he needs to go out and replicate that again this weekend. Doesn't mean that the stat line's the same. Like it could be done in a different way. He could only throw for 200 yards against Texas Tech, but maybe he runs for 100. We know that he's had success running the ball against Texas Tech in his career already. Like it just needs to feel as passionate as what I thought I saw on Saturday against Kansas. So I'm fascinated by it. I think this is a really interesting and really good timing for these two teams to play. Maybe, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you definitely don't agree with that because you're like, oh, we're getting K-State on the road at their best right now. But I think in terms of for K-State, you would have liked it to have been last week when Baron Morton wasn't playing. But I don't know. I think maybe because what he was available last week, like I bet there's a real chance that if it was the same type of situation, Baron Morton does play last week. It's just you're playing you're playing Oklahoma State and you're Texas Tech. Do you really like you could have rolled Joey McGuire could have gone out there and played quarterback for you, and you would have been fine.
Like,
So that's where I think but for the non-fan involved in this, this is a really intriguing matchup. That's why I thought this was destined to be 2:30 on Fox. Is that if both of these teams won last week in any fashion, you look at and go, okay, it's starting to kind of get interesting here. And then you see how K-State won, where they just went and controlled and dominated their rival. This is it. Look, I still think Texas Tech could win this game in a blowout, but going into it, it definitely is a lot more interesting. And K-State has set themselves up to make it that way and give themselves a real chance in this game.
yeah, it's the team that is probably the most talented in the league, Texas Tech, taking on the team that has probably played the third or fourth best out of any team in the Big 12 over the last month. Because you got to give Cincinnati and BYU that number 1 and number 2 spots just because they haven't lost anybody.
Yeah.
But then that third, fourth, it's probably K-State and Texas Tech over who has played the best in the Big 12 in the month of October. So it is very fascinating. Or Houston, but Houston got blasted by Texas Tech. So I kind of discount that a little
that
bit.
schedule, I mean, my goodness. Now look, they went and won at Arizona State, but the new rule on Arizona State is if Jeff Sims has to pick up the football at any point in the game, you're not getting Arizona State. You're getting some
Or
bummified version of them.
Or if Jordan Tyson doesn't play, they still don't have a receiver that has double-digit catches that's not named Jordan Tyson, and that's after a game where they went a full game without Jordan Tyson. So
Well,
that's
they finally did hit that number now. Malik McLean.
He's at 10 exactly now?
He's got 13,
Okay.
but he had a big weekend to get there. He had 7 for 159 against Houston.
When you have to have 7 for 159 to even get to double digits, doesn't count. But that's kind of just what makes this game fascinating, is that these two teams are playing really good football, and Texas Tech has a bunch of NFL guys on their roster right now, and it's a game that I think that if K-State doesn't even necessarily need to win the line of scrimmage, but they can't get decimated at the line of scrimmage, because I mean we saw what Texas Tech did to Kansas, and they made Kansas's offensive line look like a junior varsity high school team in that game. And then on the flip side, they were able to run all over Kansas. Texas Tech has kind of done that to everybody throughout this season, outside of when they played Arizona State, which you could make the argument that Arizona State at that time, when they had Jordan Tyson and had Sam Levitt, is that the best team that Texas Tech had played to that point? Maybe.
Probably.
And then the other fascinating thing with this is that the road games that Texas Tech has played of late, Baron Morton was pretty bad in that first half against Utah until he got hurt and came out, and then Will Hammond came in and kind of won them the game. They were not good for 3 quarters at Arizona State. Does that make you a little bit worried if you're Texas Tech that you haven't really played at your best on the road yet this year? Maybe. And especially because the last couple home games that K-State has played, they've blasted the other team. But it is just a fascinating game, because I think that this could go a lot of different ways. Texas Tech's closest win has been by 24 points this season. K-State has came off of really 3 of the last 4 games where they've rolled pretty decent Big 12 teams. TCU, I don't know what they are. KU might make a bowl. UCF is better than the other teams at the bottom. But those games were never really felt competitive. And then the one loss to Baylor is probably the second or third best game that they've played all season. So I'm really interested to see what ends up happening. And I think that the crowd will play a big role into it. And with that, it kind of feels a little bit like a basketball game when I say this, but if you are K-State, you have to be able to keep the crowd engaged. You can't have a stretch where you're really lulling out and you're punting and you're not getting third down stops on defense. You have to be able to keep the crowd engaged for the full 60 minutes, I think, to really win this game.
All right. Yeah. So this weekend, K-State, Texas Tech, if you're thinking crowd energy level, do you have a comparable game that you are trying to think, okay, it needs to kind of be like this one was?
It might need to be kind of like on that same level of 2022 Oklahoma State.
So that's the thought that I had going into it, like going in, but like the game itself, how it played out, I don't know that it matches to
No,
that. Like the game after that was Texas at home, where I think the energy going into the game, like Oklahoma State's the perfect comp. As you're going through it, you think about that Texas game, and I know they didn't end up winning, but like felt like they were kind of getting out of it, but things stayed engaged enough. There were enough plays made that, oh, here we go. And K State was in it, had a chance last drive of the game. And I think with as good as Texas Tech is, that's that's the best you can hope for in a situation like this. So that's where I would say that, you want to try to match something like that. That's kind of why I was hoping that this would be a night game for K State, but the slots all taken up. So
the night game would make it feel more like an event, but I
yeah,
think it will still feel pretty eventy at
yeah. Well,
2:30.
and you'll be closing down the game, and it'll be getting dark out. So yeah, I think it's still going to feel like a big time game, and that's because I mean it is K State is now in this thing because you're in a situation where look. Well, let's get your percentage here. You said 2% last week or whenever that was. Where are you sitting now on K State's Big 12 title appearance chances?
Probably like 3.8%.
There you go.
Winning helps because, this game doesn't work if K-State doesn't win out, but also still need BYU or Cincinnati to at least get one loss to feel good. And then
Yeah.
Houston also keeps winning, and Houston might end up with like one of the more fraudulent like 10-2, 11-1 seasons of all time if they can rattle off these last 4
I
games.
mean, Houston plays nobody left. West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and Baylor. And look, I don't think they're so good that they couldn't lose to any of those. And like there's a slip up game in there, but they're going to be in that that 2-loss tiebreaker situation. Look, K State is clearly in a spot right now where you have to rip off all of the games left on your schedule. K State has to close out the year with a 5-game winning streak to even be in the consideration for this. But you look at this league right now, and there's only 4 teams that don't have 2 losses as it stands at this point in time. And one of those is Texas Tech, who's playing this weekend against K State, and then BYU and Cincinnati. Well, so Cincinnati's either going to get their loss this weekend or they're going to eliminate Utah from the conversation. So then, at the very least, you're dropping down to if you have 2 losses or less, you're technically in it at this stage. So there are 8 teams that I would still say are theoretically alive from this. Well, one team's going to be booted from it probably. TCU is one of those 3-2 teams. They're losing at least 2 more games. I don't even care what's on their schedule the rest of the season. Arizona State's losing this weekend at Iowa State because Jeff Sims is starting with no Jordan Tyson. So, like you look around, like this is going to get chopped down, and we're going to get a much clearer picture quickly. And so if K State survives this week, then you go into a bye week, and then it's like you only have 3 games left. 2 of them are darn near automatic wins given the opponent and the situation. It's just going to come down to Salt Lake City. So if K-State can pull it out, a rabbit out of their hat and get it in there, then there's a real chance. I'll probably do something this week where I'll write something ranking the teams in terms of how good of a chance they have to make it to Arlington still.
Well, and then you also look at like we talked about Cincinnati and BYU. You might want, I mean, you need one of those 2, I think, to keep winning and give everybody else losses. But what's interesting is like if Cincinnati,
I think you want Cincinnati to be your golden goose here.
I think that you do too, because Cincinnati has games left that like they might only lose 1 more if they win in Salt Lake this weekend. But you know, BYU still has games at Texas Tech and at Cincinnati left.
Yeah.
Like the odds of them losing 2 are probably higher than Cincinnati losing 2 if Cincinnati doesn't lose this weekend. Like obviously if Cincinnati loses this weekend, like you probably want BYU to be the team that keeps winning.
Yeah.
But also it becomes interesting because again, Texas Tech, if they were to lose to K-State this weekend and have their second loss, Texas Tech plays BYU in Lubbock next weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the BYU schedule is going to get a little cumbersome on them, more than certainly what they've faced at this point in time, and that just once
But
again goes to show how the year can work out. Is you don't know who's going to be good, you don't know who's going to be bad, and then you also don't know the situation of the teams when you play them. So you consider BYU, for example, getting to face Utah and Iowa State. Well, at this time of year. Now, Utah's kind of an enigma to figure out because they're still kind of good, but also like I don't trust their offense. So
they still played Dampier, Utah, and like that game means a lot to both sides. They have the better win of the two teams that are undefeated in Big 12 play. And I don't think it's close.
no, yeah, I mean, I don't know where you would try to call Cincinnati's best win right now.
Is there
Probably, I mean, I guess it has to be Iowa State at home, but like
see,
Iowa State's a 3-loss team in the league.
I'm not even going to say that it's the Iowa State game because Iowa State was so banged up in that game that they
Yeah.
had an offensive lineman play kicker. I think that Cincinnati's best win is actually what they did overall last week against Baylor. Like that felt like a trap
Yeah.
game with Utah coming upcoming this week, and to go out and that game never really felt competitive. So for Cincinnati to do that, I think that's their best win because I think a lot of teams in this league would have beat Iowa State at that time that they played.
Yeah, which is why maybe you don't volunteer to play Iowa State before any games have been played in a foreign country.
Yeah, but to be fair, we thought the opposite going into the year.
It's true. That's true. We did think that the Iowa State magic was going to last forever. It is apparently not lasting forever, though. And they are human. They are banged up this year. So, yeah, we'll see what it looks like this weekend for K-State and Texas Tech. Again, none of the Big 12 championship stuff is legitimately warranted unless K-State gets over this hurdle this weekend. Then it becomes legitimate. But I do think kind of the setting and the scenario for it is setting up, and K-State's a lot more in this thing in terms of where they stand amongst the league than some might expect.
If K-State wins this weekend, we can spend a lot of this upcoming bye talking about the Big 12 championship scenarios than I think that anybody really
Yeah, I
anticipates.
mean, if K-State wins this weekend, we're going to be crashing bballnotnothing.net all through the bye week
Yes.
with scenarios trying to play those out.
And like with the bye week, there will be a lot of scoreboard watching and like who do you need to root for this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that'll do it for us today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Me and DY will have the Texas Tech preview. So go through that. And then Thursday, Friday, Drew and I back here. There will be a basketball game Friday. There will not be a show after that one. There's no reason why there should be a show after K-State plays Newman unless something horrific happens. But even then, not doing a show because it'll be Halloween and I'll have to take my daughter trick-or-treating for the first time. So we
I
won't
will
be doing that. Drew will be there, boots on the ground, enjoying Halloween in Bramlage. We'll see how it goes. You got a number in mind for what you want to see K-State hit on the scoreboard? You think they get to 100?
I mean, it's got to be 100. If they can score 91 on Missouri, I would be kind of disappointed if they couldn't get above that number against Newman. No disrespect to the Jets.
No, please. Load up plenty of disrespect on the Jets. I mean, you folks know me. I've got little respect for really non-power four, power five and basketball conferences. So certainly when you bring in Division II, I do not care about you, especially a Division II team that went 15-13 last year, below
This,
500 in the MIAA.
it feels like a game where like one of the bench players could go crazy and then like not play on opening night, and then people freak
I
out.
mean, let's look right now. I know I said we were going to finish up here. Let's see. Okay. I mean, some are calling this the Durin Buka game. He's 7'2". The tallest player for Newman is 6'10". Their second tallest is 6'8".
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, just let's just see what he can do. Let's make this comical, because that's what's been missing from K-State basketball for the last however many years. It is some real laughers against bad teams.
Yeah,
And
especially in the exhibitions. I feel like those have gotten like kind of uncomfy for a half, and then you coast the rest of the way.
yeah, last year K-State 70-56 over Fort Hays State. Not fun. Like, who cares to watch that? You go back the year before that, K-State 102-68 against Emporia State. So that's decent. You'll take that. 22-23, 76-49 against Washburn. I think I was at that one for some reason, and I'm not typically a big exhibition guy. 21-22, 78-59 over Pitt State. Again, not like a fun score. If it's 20 points or under, just shut it down. As we know, 2021 season was the 81-68 loss to Fort Hays State. Not an exhibition game, by the way. Played in the middle of the year. Just
Well, it was an exhibition for Fort Hays.
which is what's so strange about it. And then 1920, K-State, Emporia State. Emporia State just terrible is what I'm learning from this, because K-State won by almost 40. But that was when they were playing two exhibitions against the D2 schools, and they only beat Washburn by 10 inside of Bramlage. So it's been a while since the glory days of just smacking the crap out of teams like 2019 did against Pitt State, 79-39. So bring it back. Just embarrass Newman this weekend. And yes, correct, Drew. You can say you have respect for him or whatever it was that you said. I do not. No, trust me. Zero respect. I mean, come on. Maybe if you were the Friends Falcons and you were on the north side of Kellogg and you were the number 4 team in NAIA football, but Newman, south side of Kellogg, bad basketball team, no football team. What do you really got then? Apologies to TJ Cleveland, proud Newman Jet. All right. That'll do it for us today, as I've disrespected a fan base that's 20 deep. So we'll be here tomorrow, me and DY, talking about K-State and Texas Tech. And then Thursday and Friday, we'll do some more football stuff, including looking at Avery Johnson, who is sitting right now three touchdown passes away from tying the school record. So he is on the verge of taking another passing record for K-State, despite the fact that he allegedly cannot throw and also has been a disappointment. So we'll have some things to kind of go off of from that and discuss. Yeah, 3 away from tying Will Howard's record, 4 away from breaking it. And what would be most notable on that is that he's going to be in a situation where like he's going to do it in less games than it took Will Howard. I know that sometimes people look at it and they start talking about a compiler, all this other stuff. That was some of the discussion with Aoka Lee's record, where it's like, well, she's been here forever. It's like, well, she actually did it in less like games and shot it, like all this other stuff. So we'll discuss that during the week.
I was about to say, I have some takes later on in the week about the passing record, and especially as it translates to this weekend.
Gotcha. And as long as Avery Johnson doesn't have some completely disastrous day, he will likely achieve this record with the fewest interceptions of any player that's in the top 10 in terms of passing touchdowns in K-State history. Which right now you look at what he's doing, you have to kind of go and sort through the nobodies that have gotten to throw some passes, but his interception percentage is easily one of the best in K-State football right now amongst guys that have attempted a real amount of passes. Actually, he's tied with Skylar Thompson right now for what I believe would be the best, which some may not have thought that Skylar would be there, but there he is. So we'll have plenty to talk about on that because it's approaching and it's fascinating, and it's going to be a reality at some point this season that K-State fans are going to have to come to grips with and decide where they fall with their take on Avery Johnson's standing long-term in K-State football history. One thing that could help decide that is how he performs against Texas Tech this weekend. So we'll close things out today, get back on it tomorrow with DY, and then through the rest of the week. A lot of written stuff over at KSO right now. So go to On3, get signed up if you're not, and we'll talk to everybody again tomorrow.